Jainism everyone, welcoming you all to the second lecture of this very interesting lecture series, which consists of two lectures. One lecture we have already had in the last week, and this is Teen Lok, Three Worlds. In the last week, we had discussion on the first part of this lecture series, and today we will conclude this lecture. We have Somil Bhaiya along with us. You all know him very well now because he was also a part of few other lecture series as well. And today he will be taking the later part of the presentation, which is Teen Lok. Before I hand over the mic to him to start his lecture for today, I wanted to request everybody to kindly go through GIF portal, which is the base of Jain English education and values. And if you have any queries related to accessibility points, you can feel free to reach out on the desired number as well as the mail ID. Also, if you need regular updates, you can subscribe to the GIF channel and get regular updates about the lectures and the upcoming lectures as well. Over to you, Somil Bhaiya.
Thank you, Harshil Bhai, and Jai Jinendra, everyone. Let's start with Manglacharan. Let us fold our hands for Namokar Mantra. Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Uvajayanam, Namo Loe Savvasanam. Mangalam Bhagavan Viro Mangalam Gautamo Gani Mangalam Kunda Kundaryo Jaina Dharmostu Mangalam. Welcome everyone to this second session of Teen Lok topic under Jeev Academy. Let me share my screen. During our last class, we started the topic of Teen Lok, or the universe where we reside. So we all know that we reside in this universe, which is called Lok or Vishwa. Now, what is Vishwa? Vishwa or Lok or the universe is where all the substances that exist in the universe reside. So the question arises that what is this place and where am I? So anytime somebody is born or somebody changes their form, the first question they always wonder is who am I and where do I fit in this whole grand scheme of things? So Sri Jinendra Bhagwan in his Divya Dhwani or his divine sermon, he shares that the universe is made of six substances. Sri Jinendra Bhagwan, who is omniscient, has seen past, present, and future, and he has seen everything in this universe. So, based on his knowledge, we know that there exist only six type of substances in this universe. And where do they reside? So they reside in a place called Lok. In the Lok, there are two sections. One is called Lokakash or occupied universe, which is what you see here in the center, and the outside space, which is called Alokakash or the unoccupied universe. Now, Lokakash or the occupied universe is of the shape of a human standing with his hand folded on his waist, or you can say that it is of the shape of one and a half musical instrument called mridang in our old Indian mythology. So, as per the Jain philosophy, the occupied universe is where all six substances reside. And these six substances are Jeev, living being, matter or Pudgal, motion of medium of motion, Dharmastikai, medium of rest, Adharmastikai, space, Akash or Kal and time. But beyond these Lokakash, where these six substances are not found, is where you will find only Akash. It's called Alokakash or non occupied universe. it is a completely vast, infinite empty space. There is nothing else in this space. So universe is made of empty space in non-occupied universe and a portion of the space where all other substances, including all six substances, reside, right? So this occupied universe can be divided into three worlds: the upper world, middle world, and the lower world. During our last class or the first session in this series, we covered the upper world where celestial beings reside, and it's also called as a heaven. The lower world where hellish beings reside, and it is also known as Narak. Some portion of the lower world, Adholok, also has celestial beings reside in them. Today we are going to cover the middle world or Madhyalok, and this is where we reside. In this human form, we reside in middle world or Madhyalok, and this is why this is of utmost importance to us right now for our improved understanding. Okay, I want to also show you where do we reside. So if you see this middle world, uh, if you see this entire Lokakash or occupied universe, the middle world is where this the waste area of that human standing is. So the entire upper half is upper world or Urdhvalok. The entire lower half is called Adholok or lower world, and a very thin strip of the waste area, which is 1 Raju long, this thin area here, and the entire depth, which is 7 Raju long, is called the middle world. And the height of that is similar to that of Sumeru Parvat, which we will talk in a while. There is also this central area which I want to draw your attention to, because we will use this in a little more depth in our next discussions. All the humans and the animals which are higher than two sensed organisms, so two sensed, three sensed, four sensed, and five sensed, they live only in this central tubular structure which is called Trasnali. This Trasnali is 1 Raju by 1 Raju. So it is like a square, and it is almost 14 Raju long, right from the top to the bottom. Except for this central area, the entire universe is occupied by one sensed beings or called Sthavar Jeev. So today we will dive deeper into the Madhyalok, and in particular in Madhyalok, we will look into this central portion which is called Trasnali and what exists there. Okay, so let's jump right into that. The middle world or Madhyalok. We just saw that the middle world or Madhyalok is 1 Raju by 7 Raju, right? So it is like a rectangular strip which is 1 by 7 in the ratio. However, at the center of that 1 by 7, you see that there is also 1 by 1 portion which is called Trasnali. And this 1 by 1 portion is occupied by infinite, or not infinite, but innumerable lands and oceans. Innumerable lands and oceans which are organized in concentric fashion. So you can see at the very center, there is a small island which is land. It is surrounded by ocean. Then it is again surrounded by land. It is again surrounded by ocean. It is again surrounded by land and ocean, and so on and so forth. So, how many lands and how many oceans are there? A natural question that arises is, you have only a square portion which is 1 Raju by 1 Raju, and we will not go in details of the dimension of Raju, otherwise it's very complicated. But you can imagine that you have a square area which is 1 by 1, and that is filled with concentric rings which are ever growing in their dimension, because they are all one inside the other. So you can imagine the last ring is the largest, and the centermost ring is the smallest one. These rings are called Dweep and Ocean, or island and ocean of Madhyalok. And how many are there? They are innumerable lands and oceans which are concentric. What is the meaning of innumerable? Let's let's imagine a little bit, right? Imagine that you have just five lands and oceans. So you have central island, then first ocean, then second island, second ocean, third island, third ocean, etc. And then you have up to five. Now imagine you have 50. So you have land and ocean, that arrangement 50 times. Now imagine 500. Now imagine 5,000, 50,000, 5 lakh, 50 lakh, and keep multiplying that number until that number becomes so big that it is beyond human imagination to calculate it. Such a number is called innumerable number or asankhyat number. So there are asankhyat or innumerable number of lands and oceans which are concentric to each other, expanding from the center all the way to the edges of this one by one area of Trasnali. Right? I hope you can imagine a little bit into this in more details. Let's dive a little more deeper. So you can see, we can kind of correlate this to this type of arrangement. This is not drawn to scale, but it is just meant to explain how lands and oceans are organized, right? So there is a central island, then there is ocean, then there is again another island, another ocean, then another big island, and another ocean outside, etc. So far here, we have drawn only three islands and two oceans, right? So you can see that Madhyalok is made up of innumerable numbers of lands and oceans. Now, we humans in this current birth, we reside in the very central island. So we reside in the middle world, that too in the very central island, which is called Jambu Dweep. This Jambu Dweep is a land that we will study in more details, and there I will tell you where we exactly reside in that. Okay. Now beyond Jambu Dweep, there is Lavan Samudra, then there is Dhatki Khand, then there is Pushkar Dweep, Kalo Dadi Samudra, then there is Pushkar Dweep, Pushkar Samudra, then Dhrutvar Dweep, Dhrutvar Samudra, Kshirvar Dweep, Kshirvar Samudra, etc. So we have names of first 16 lands and oceans in our Jain scriptures. We also have the names of last 16 lands and oceans in our Jain scripture. But in between, there are innumerable lands and oceans, and their names are impossible to write down in any scripture. But you can imagine that words are only limited, and the names are innumerable. So some of them can also get repeated. Let's also look at some of the dimensions to understand this a little better. So the central island called Jambu Dweep is 1 lakh yojan in diameter. Now, 1 yojan is almost equivalent to 6,400 kilometers. In terms of our earthly dimensions, you can kind of calculate that 6,400 kilometers is something like from here to India to almost like Europe. So if you multiply that by two or three, but in 2 or 3 yojan, we can cover the entire known Earth to scientific community. And here we are talking about Jambudweep being 1 lakh yojan. So you can imagine that the size, the dimensions, or the humongousness of space or lands and masses that we talk about in Jainism is a fold, is multi-order magnitude higher than what scientific communities is talking about. We will also spend some time a little later to correlate how does the scientific world and this world correlate. But let's first understand this Madhyalok in more details. All right. So another interesting phenomenon which I would like to explain you is that each island and the ocean which surrounds it, and the island that surrounds it, and the ocean that surrounds it have a has a geometric proportion or propagation. So basically, the central island is 1 lakh yojan. The first ocean, Lavan Samudra, which is surrounding the Jambu Dweep, is 2 lakh yojan, double the central island in one dimension. So you can imagine the diameter of Jambu Dweep is 1 lakh yojan, the full diameter. but only one side length of Lavan Samudra is 2 lakh yojan. And then you put the same geometric proportion henceforth. So after Lavan Samudra, the third one is called Dhatki Khand. Dhatki Khand, one side dimension is 4 lakh yojan. So 1 lakh, then 2 lakh, then 4 lakh. Then Kalodadi Samudra, and its one side dimension is 8 lakh yojan. Then Pushkar Dweep, its one side dimension is 16 lakh yojan. So you can imagine that if you keep multiplying by 2, if you keep multiplying by 2 even 10 times, so let's do it. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512. Already the number starts getting very, very big, right? So you can imagine only 10 times, which is only 5 lands and 5 oceans, the number already gets into hundreds. So imagine if you have innumerable islands and oceans, the size of each island and each ocean getting double, double, double becomes so big that the center Jambu Dweep is like a speck in this whole slide or whole screen, right? So you can, in a way, feel the geometric proportion this way. Okay, let's dive further into the outside or the external or the last few lands and oceans of the Madhyalok. So here you can see the central circle is drawn much bigger, but that is not one island. That is a combination of innumerable lands and oceans, but we cannot go in that much depth in the drawing. So we have just left it plain. But imagine now going outside in. So outside the last portion of this one by one area or land ocean matrix, the last one is an ocean, and that one is called Swayambhu Raman Ocean. The one inside or the penultimate island is called Swayambhu Raman Dweep. And then there is another island, ocean inside, then there is another island inside, another ocean inside, another island, another ocean, another island, again, innumerable times. Right. So, one mathematical logic I will tell you is that imagine that if every island and ocean are getting double, double, double in the size, which means the last ocean is sort of double of the previous island, right? And then that is double of the previous ocean, then that is double of the previous island, etc. So imagine that if you have the entire area, which is one Raju by one Raju, if you remember that central tube-like structure, then the last ocean is double of everything else inside, right? Which means that out of one by one, almost half Raju, half area is occupied by Swayambhuraman ocean. Then half of that, which is one fourth of area, is occupied by Swayambhuraman Island. Then again, half of that, so 1/8 is occupied by the next ocean. Then 1/16 occupied by the next land, so on and so forth. So mathematically also, this calculation is very, very interesting, yet mind-boggling. All right. Now we have delved or we have understood the concentric nature of lands and oceans in the Madhyalok, but let's understand where do we stay and who else stays there. So in the middle world where we stay, there are also animals or subhumans which you see around us. You know, we see dogs, we see cats, we see birds, we see many other type of animals. But there are also celestial beings that stay around us. We may not be able to see them because their bodies are made of Vaikriik Sharir, which is a special type of a Pudgal arrangement, and that cannot be seen by these eyes. But there are two type of celestial beings that live around us. One is called stellar or Jyotishis. So all the sun, moon, stars that we see in the sky, these are the homes or they are the places where these Jyotishi or stellar Dev have their homes. So basically their homes are on top of these circular or spherical things. And there are also wanderers or Vyantar Dev. These wanderers, sometimes they stay on a lake, they stay on a mountain, they can be staying on a tree. They are everywhere around us. but we can't see them, and they normally don't trouble us. They are in their own world, we are in our own world. Just like us and animals, we live around each other, don't trouble each other. Similarly, even the celestial beings are around us. They live in their own world, we live in our own world. All right. Again, let's dive a further deeper into where we are staying in this life. In this life, we stay in a dweep called Jambu Dweep. If you remember, this is the very central, it is the very central island in this innumerable arrangement of lands and oceans. This very central dweep is called Jambu Dweep. And at the very center of Jambu Dweep is a tall mountain, and it's called Sudarshan Meru Mountain. In short form, it is also known as Sumeru Parvat or Sumeru Mountain. All right, this Sumeru Mountain is basically you can say that it is the epic of the entire middle world. The height of Sumeru Parvat is 1 lakh 40 yojan. Again, as a reminder, the diameter of Jambudweep, the central land, is 1 lakh yojan, and the same size, almost the same size, the height of Sumeru Parvat is 1 lakh 40 yojans. Out of this 1 lakh 40 yojan, 1000 yojan is inside the ground as a foundation, and the remaining 99,040 is protruding outwards. And just at the place where it finishes, so right at the tip of end of Jambu Dweep, just at a gap of one hair, our hair is so thin, just one hair above the heaven or the upper world starts, right? So that is the significance of Sumeru Parvat. The name Jambu Dweep of this central island comes from a tree which is called Jambu tree. This Jambu tree is located on the northern side in the central area. You can see this black dot. That is a tree which is made of actually earthen. It is not a tree made of like our normal trees that we see around us. It is a tree which is made of earth-bodied living beings. So they are called Prithvi Kaik Jeev. And because of this, this tree has a name Jambu tree. The dweep or the island is called Jambu Island or Jambu Dweep. Right? This Jambu Dweep is is a circular dweep or has an exact circular dimension, and it is divided into 7 areas or 7 lands because of 6 mountains. These 6 mountains you can see in this diagram, the areas marked with crisscross mountain like drawing is a mountain which is called Kulachal Parvat or Kulachal Mountain. The name of these mountains are Himvan, Mahahimvan, Nishad, Neel, Rukmi, and Shikhri from bottom to the top. Because of these 6 mountains, the entire circular Jambudweep gets divided into 7 lands or 7 regions. These 7 regions are called Bharat, Hemavat, Hari, Videha, Ramyak, Hiranyavat, and Airavat. Out of these 7 lands, we currently in our this scientific world, we live in an area which is called Bharat Kshetra, which is the bottommost area shown here in this Jambu Dweep. This Bharat Kshetra is where 24 Tirthankaras take birth in the fourth era of Ausarpini Kal. There are another set of 24 Tirthankaras who take birth in the third era of Utsarpini Kal. So in total, there are 48 Tirthankaras in one Kalpakal or one time cycle. And then similar phenomenon is repeated the next time cycle and so on and so forth. Right now, we are in the fifth era of Ausarpini or deteriorating time cycle. So we have just had 24 Tirthankaras in the fourth time cycle, and the last one was Lord Mahavir. So we are still following the sermon of Lord Mahavir. Now, the Jambu Deep or the Bharat Kshetra where we lie or where we stay right now is where the 24 Tirthankaras took birth and achieved nirvana. But we also hear about Sri Simandar Swami Bhagwan quite frequently, right? And in our many temples, we have the Jinendra Bhagwan Pratima established, which is of Simandar Swami Bhagwan. And where do he reside? So he reside in an area which is called Videha Kshetra. This Videha Kshetra is the central portion. In the central portion, there are these white areas, is called Videha Kshetra. And you can see the arrow. This is where Simandar Bhagwan is located. Simandar Bhagwan is located in the northeastern side of Videha Kshetra. There are four Tirthankaras in the Videha Kshetra of Jambudvip. And in total, there are 20 Tirthankaras in the 2.5 Dweep. Adi Dweep is what is called where humans exist. So, in Jambudvip, there are four Tirthankaras, which are Simandar Bhagwan in the northeastern area, then Yugmandar Bhagwan in the southeastern area, Bahu Bhagwan in the southwestern area, and Subahu Bhagwan in the northwestern area. Similarly, in this clockwise fashion, in the other islands in the concentric area where Vidya Kshetra exists, there are other further Tirthankaras beyond four. These 20 Tirthankaras, who are that is the minimum number of Tirthankaras in Videha Kshetra, these are eternal Tirthankaras. So they are basically always there. If one Simandar Bhagwan will attain Nirvana, a next Simandar Bhagwan will take birth and his sermon will continue. So there the middle world is never devoid of any Tirthankar Bhagwans ever. However, in the central Jambu Dweep, there are total 32 Videha Kshetra. So you can see these dark vertical lines and also dark blue vertical lines. So in total, there are 8 Videha Kshetra in the northeast Videha, which is you can see by these white area bifurcations here. Similarly, there are 8 Videha Kshetra in the southeast. You can see one shaded area here, which is one Videha, then second white, third white, fourth, etc. So in total, there are 32 Videha Kshetra, then 33rd, which is Bharat Kshetra at the bottom, and at the very top is a Kshetra called Airavat Kshetra. So in total, there are 34 areas which are known as Karma Bhumi. And this is where Tirthankaras take birth and they attain Nirvana. So in total, in 2.5 Dweep, there are 170 Karma Bhumis in total. So there can be a maximum number of 170 simultaneous Tirthankars at any point of time. And at the minimum, there will always be 20 Tirthankaras, right? At the time of Sri Ajitnath Bhagwan in this 24 Tirthankaras, there were all 170 Tirthankars that existed, right? So such phenomenon is very rare, but it does happen. Okay, we go further. Uh, there are also various lakes and rivers that come out of these mountains. So there are in total 14 rivers which come out of these mountains, which are Ganga, Sindhu, Rohit, Rohitasya, Harit, Harikanta, Sita, Sitoda, Nari, Narkanta, Suvarnakula, Rupyakula, Rakta, Raktuda. These are 14 major rivers, and then there are many thousands of minor rivers around them. So in total, that is the nature of the middle world as we see as Arihant Bhagwan understands today. Now I'm sure you've heard through this lecture and you are wondering that the scientific universe that we study in our science is completely different. There we say that the universe is spherical in shape. Here we are saying that it is a flat middle world with many concentric land and oceans. There we hear that the earth is going around the sun and it is making a revolution around itself as well as around the sun. Here, what we say is that the earth is flat and it is stationary, and sun, moon, stars, which are within the 2.5 dweep, Adi dweep. They are within the 2.5 dweep. They are making rotations around the center Sumeru Parvat. Outside of 2.5 dweep, they are all stationary. So how do they match? They there are so many differences, but how do they correlate? Let's use some of the explanation or logics which we have seen, and then what could be the other possibilities, right? So in the very uh, center of the Bharat Kshetra area where we reside today, we saw dimensionally that the dimensions of the central dweep, Jambu Dweep, that we talk in Jainism is much, much bigger than what science explains Earth as. The science explains Earth as a spherical area, which would maximum be of 3 to 5 yojan, whereas the very bottom Bharat Kshetra where we reside as per Jainism, Jain philosophy, is 529 yojan in the depth or in the height. And if you count the width of that shape of that arc, it is even higher than 10,000 yojans. So uh, the even the size of Bharat Kshetra is much, much bigger than the earth that we are talking about. Now, there is also a mention in our scripture that the central area of this Bharat Kshetra, which is called Arya Khand, and even in the Arya Khand, there is another central area which is called Ayodhya Nagari. That Ayodhya Nagari is 8 yojan by 12 yojan big. So even that Ayodhya is bigger than the earth that we talk about in the science. Now, within the Ayodhya Nagari, there is a mention in our scriptures in Triloksar that there is a area which is bulged from the center. So there is a land mass which is risen above the rest of the land mass, and it appears like a semi-hemispherical bulge. So it is possible that the earth that we see scientifically is this bulged area, and that's where, so some area are on the lower side of that bulged area, some are at the top, some are at the other end of that bulged area. And that is why we see the type of uh, uh, day and night arrangements in the different countries in the earth that we see. The sun rotates around Sumeru Parvat, and there are two suns and two moons. So one sun, so both the suns are diametrically opposite of each other. So when one of the sun crosses these big mountains and arrives towards the Bharat Kshetra, that is when the first light falls on the eastern side of that bulge, and that's where we see countries like Japan or Australia getting the first light of the day. By the time the sun crosses those mountains and comes at the top of Bharat Kshetra, this is when we see the middle afternoon, and it's already getting a little evening in the Australia because it is on that far edge of that curve. And as the sun moves away from the west side, crossing some of these mountains, there is a back end of the light which is falling on countries like US, Canada, etc. And that's where they see the daytime. But on the other side, Australia or Japan, they are already on the other side of the bulge and they don't see any part of the sun. So it's already in the night time. So such phenomenon can explain the day night arrangement that we see. There is also a possibility that the type of visibility or the vision that we have with our scientific equipments and with our eyes over a longer distance is very limited. And we know that because of gravity, the light could also bend over a longer distances. So there can be many, many philosophies why we see the type of earth that we see. Even the scientists are still trying to explain and figure it out. We know that, see, scientific theories are always theories, and there is always a research which is going on to better explain our universe. Earlier in 1600s, the earth was believed to be flat. Then there was a theory that earth is round. Earlier it was believed that the earth is stationary and the sun and moon are going around. uh, Now that theory has changed in the current centuries. It is possible that in future centuries it will change again. Even today, a large sect of scientific community believes that the earth is flat, and there are quite a few research papers being published. So science is constantly evolving. But what we see as per Jain scriptures is based on the sermon of omniscient Tirthankar Bhagwan. And this is, and omniscience can never go wrong. So this is the most authentic nature of the universe that one should believe in and understand what is written in our scriptures in much more detail, so that when you question, you need to have a knowledge of both sides. Once you understand the nature, then you will be able to establish correlation. So I would highly urge you to study the different scriptures like Tilo Pandati or Triloksar, which are original granths written by Bhavlingi Acharya Bhagwan. They are written by ascetics, and ascetics are a holder of vow of truth. Satya Mahavrat ke dhari hote hain. So they will always say the truth. So I would highly urge you, you read these scriptures, make yourself familiar with the nature of the universe, and then you can dive deeper into some of the questions which we may have. With that, I would like to pause and invite if you have any questions at this point of time, not only in the middle world, but also in the entire teen log. And Harshil bhai, towards the end, please keep 5 minutes. I would like to conclude with some message before we finish.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Bhaiya. So, as Bhaiya mentioned, the session is now open if you have any questions related to the topic. Anyone from the audience? If you have any question or you wanted to keep up any point which you have read or you feel like this is to be discussed so that Bhaiya can also throw some light on that topic which you mentioned. Anyone?
Or if you have read something which could be beneficial to this audience in terms of sharing knowledge, or you've read some articles which is useful, please do share that as well.
Yes. Okay, so let me start with a point where Bhaiya can throw some light, and this can be a good point of discussion to the topic which we are studying today. So, Bhaiya, when we study about the count of Chhe Dravya in this whole universe,
Mhm.
we know that Jeev Anant, Pudgal Anantanant, Dharma Adharma, and Akash Dravya are one each.
Mm.
And Kal Dravya Lok Praman Asankhyat. So, can you explain this Lok Praman Asankhyat term? And also this Dharma Adharma Akash 111. Can you please explain this in terms of Teen Lok?
Sure. Very good question. And to explain this, let me share my slide again, just to explain what is Lok Praman. Hmm. Share my screen again. Okay, so see, we have seen that this is the nature of the universe or occupied universe. Occupied universe is of this shape. Now we can see that in this shape, there is infinite or innumerable, I'm sorry, not infinite, innumerable space points throughout this area. This innumerable space points is called lok, but there are many different uh, variations in the word innumerable, because even for example, one human being, our body, the area which is occupied by our soul or our body is also innumerable space points. The area which is occupied by, let's say, the entire village or entire city, like let's say city of Mumbai, that is also innumerable. The area which is occupied by entire India is also innumerable. The area occupied by world is also innumerable. So there are many types of innumerable. So when we say that certain uh, substance has the size of innumerable space points, how do we know which type of innumerable we are talking about? Are we talking about the smaller innumerable, or are we talking about larger innumerable, right? So are we talking about smaller asankhyat, or are we talking about the larger asankhyat? How do we know? So in order to give a specific correlation to the innumerable, it is correlated to the size of log. This log, or this universe, has innumerable space points. So each substance, like dharmastikai, medium of motion, adharmastikai, medium of rest, and lokakash, the occupied universe, and the true size of jeev, when it is not obstructed by anything, it at a maximum dimension. These four things has the size which is innumerable space points, but how many innumerable? Of which is of the size of the entire lok. So the size of this lok and the size of dharmastikai, adharmastikai, uh, lokakash, and the biggest size of jeev. They are all exactly same, and that is of that size of lok. So that is called lok praman asankhyat, or innumerable, which is equivalent to lok, right? Similarly, kal dravya. Kal Dravya's size is only one space point, but there are how many Kal Dravya in this universe? So the count of Kal Dravya is innumerable. But how many innumerable? So innumerable, that is equivalent to the space points in the lok. That's why the number of Kal Dravya is called Lok Praman Asankyat. I hope that is clear.
Yes, thank you so much, Bhaiya. This explanation is totally perfect and answered my query. So, to engage people from audience, I have a very simple question now. The question is this Teen Lok Rachna, the entire structure, is man-made or it is natural? I wanted someone to at least answer this, a very simple and basic question. So, is this entire, yeah, someone?
Yes, it is nature.
It is natural. Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, this entire Rachna which we talk about Teen Lok, it is natural. Yeah, we are getting comments also from the audience. Thank you so much. So, also one last point which I wanted to mention, Bhaiya, is that when we think about Keval Gyan, when we think about Mati and Shrut Gyan. So our Gyan is Mati and Shrut Gyan. So what is the limit? The limit is just what we see in front of us is what we know, and what we remember slightly is what we know, and that can be a part of the Gyan. But hearing about this Teen Lok Rachna, about infinite concentric lands, seas, everything, it shows us the Vishalta of Keval Gyan. That is,
Absolutely.
Kevali Bhagwan has that knowledge, infinite power, to know each and every Parmanu in this universe, because every Parmanu has that Samanya good called Prameyatva good, because of which it is known by someone. So I think learning to this topic, it shows us the Vishalta of Keval Gyan. And though we have just Mati and Shrut Gyan, so our primary focus is to attain that supreme knowledge, to know each and every object or the Parmanu in the universe. Though that will not be the focus, focus is only to know the supreme soul, but that is a gifted thing, which is Keval Gyan, which will automatically pop up. So yeah, Chitra ji, I guess you have a question or wanted to add something.
Yeah, Jai Jillian, sir. My question is to Vidwanji, that when the spaceship, for example, right now, Mr. Shukla from India has gone. So, where do the ships go according to our cosmology?
That's a very good question. So the spaceships are basically going right up, right? And there are 10 directions in the space. We know that north, west, east, south. These are main directions, and then there are cross directions like northwest, southwest, etc. These are eight, and then up and down. These are two additional directions, right? So anything that uh, we throw up from the earth is basically going in the upward direction. Similarly, if we see the sun, moon, stars, they are in that upward direction. Now, how up are they going? That's the key question, right? How high have they gone? So, as per Jainism, all of our these Jyotishi or stellar bodies, they are between 790 and 900 yojan higher than the Earth's surface. Sumeru Parvat, as you know, is 99,001 lakh yojan higher, right? So, mm, these spaceships, they are going up, and then they are in a way rotating around there or hovering around there, but it is not going as high because we saw the dimension of yojan also. It's a very huge number, 6,400 kilometers. So you can probably use this and do some calculations yourself, that how high have they gone, and does it make sense? So this is where, I mean, even to extend that question, there are so many of these lunar missions or Mars missions that we have seen, right? And where have they gone or landed?
Correct.
So all of these celestial bodies, there are two possibilities, right? Maybe they have just gone up and landed on some stone or some earthly object which appears similar to planet, and then we call it as Mars or moon. Or it is also possible that they have gone and landed on actual moon, but on the bottom side of the so the moon is a hemispherical body as per Jain scripture. The upper part is flat, which is where the mahal or the palaces of these stellar celestial beings exist. And on the lower side is a semi-hemispherical earthly body. So maybe they have gone and landed there. So it is very difficult to say where scientists have landed, but they have certainly not crossed thousands of yojans. They are certainly in that tens or hundreds of yojans space.
Thank you so much. And there are actually this subject is of great interest because I have my science background and I'm reading and studying religion too. The point is, it's very, very difficult to explain it to anyone who has been, in this science age of uh, experiments and believing. So, uh,
Indeed, Chitraji. And I would like to add that if you see or if you read the two things prima facie or superficially, there appear so many contradictions between our Jain way of explaining the universe and the scientific way of explaining the universe. But that's why I always urge or request everybody to not start countering or cross questioning each of them, any of them for that matter, right away. Let's
correct.
dive deeper into scientific understanding as well. Let's dive deeper into our Jain understanding as well. And once we deep dive into all of them, we will really understand the correlation or where does gaps exist. Just as an example, I know we are already crossing our time limit, but you may have heard that scientists believe that the universe started with a big bang, and there was a very dense particle earlier which exploded and things started moving away from each other, and even today they are moving away from each other. And their basis of coming to this conclusion is, if they are doing some far object infrared spectrum, then those peaks are moving. If you are scientific, you would understand the infrared spectrum is basically just some light spectrum or curve coming from a very far object. And they
Right.
have seen that there are two far objects which infrared spectrums are moving. So they assume that these two objects are basically moving away from each other. And if
Mhm.
they are moving away from each other, then the entire universe is moving away from each other, which means at some point it was very, very close. And which means it was one point, which means there has to be a big bang. So there are many, many which means in the entire hypothesis. Now, we know as per Jain scriptures that there are many moving objects in this universe. And it is quite possible that scientists could have picked some of these moving objects and misunderstood that the entire universe is expanding. So if we deep drill into everything, things becomes much clearer.
Yeah, as you said, we need to really do research and to
Exactly.
correlate at some point is the question. And
Correct.
I'm sure, is it only in Jainism that this kind of cosmology is there, or in any other scriptures also we have found in the other mat?
In the other math also, all of the math have some philosophy or the other. So I would urge you not to spend too much time, but also have at least prima facie understanding of other math also. Some math believe that the earth is lying on the back of a tortoise. Some math
Right.
say that the earth is on top of a shesh nag or some serpent. It is on the top of the serpent. Then
Mhm.
Chinese believe that it is on the horn of the dragon, and there are many philosophies. So
Mhm.
some also believe that there is no earth; it is all imagination. What is
Mhm.
reality is only what is in front of you. So my reality and your reality are different because what we see in front of us is the real reality. And there
Mm.
are innumerable such philosophies. Uh, we don't have enough time or energy to really go down and study each of them.
Correct.
But at least if you apply the common logic by just understanding the superficial nature, you would know that I think you need to first understand Jain way of saying things, and then you can correlate others.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Pleasure.
for raising this beautiful point. There's much to study and know about this further if we go deep. So, where you can take your 5 minutes now to conclude
Yes.
and then we can proceed.
So I just, because this is my last session on Teen Lok, I wanted to culminate or finish the session with explanation of where does Siddh Bhagwan lies. Eventually, our objective of understanding this universe is to see where we have taken birth in this universe infinite number of times in the past, and where all we have touched in our space points. We are taking constant births and deaths in four life forms, and we are constantly suffering just because we don't know the true nature of our soul. Once we start knowing the true nature of our soul and we get completely engrossed in that eternal bliss, the Jeev or soul will rise on the Gunasthan ladder, which is the basically a ladder of our internal purity. And once you reach the summit of this internal purity, Jeev leaves these earthly or this bodily form and becomes a pure soul. And it rises from this middle world all the way to the top of this universe or occupied universe. That place is called Siddhashila. It is indicated by the small arc at the top, but it is not really here. It is at the edge of this, even the gaseous structure. So it is at this edge of this yellow gaseous point. This is where all the pure soul exists, and that is called Siddhashila. You can see it in this diagrammatic representation here. The Siddhashila is shown by these white moon-shaped earthly object, and then pure soul who are either in Khadgasan or standing form, or they are in the Padmasan or sitting form, with all of their heads aligned right at the edge of this occupied universe is an area called Siddhashila. Siddhashila, if you take the breadth, it is equivalent to 2.5 lands or Manushya Dweep in the middle world. So it is right on top of us. We can all imagine sitting wherever we are. If you see up, there are infinite Siddha Bhagwan who have achieved eternal bliss sitting at the same place where you're sitting today. And yeah, we should really consider these Siddh Bhagwan as our role model. So that because we are pure soul, they have achieved the pure soul state in reality. We are pure soul by our true nature, but he is pure soul in reality, and we want to achieve that state. So by looking at him, by looking at where he exists in this teen lok or universe, we should aspire to become like him. And I hope by studying these Jain scriptures or literature, we all achieve this eternal bliss at some point of time. Thank you very much for participating, and we should end with a small Jinwani Stuti. So please fold your hands and we will say Jinwani Stuti. निज निधि निज में बताई यह अनंत उपकार है, इसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना शत बार है, वंदना शत बार है। बोलो अंतर्मुख मुद्रावन सर्व जिनेन्द्र भगवान की जय हो।
9
जय
times.
जिनेन्द्र। 9 times नमोकार मंत्र।
Just I'll take 2 minutes of yours to shortly brief you about how to access these lectures and the Jeep website. So these are 4 basic steps mentioned on your screen. Number 1, visit the Jeep website. Under resources, navigate the topic you want to explore. Let's say this is introduction to three worlds. You will just go to the three worlds lecture. It will pop up like in a highlighted form and you can click on it. When you click on the topic, you will receive a link to access the course and you can view your courses on your dashboard, just like mentioned in the screenshot. And then you can select the course you wish to read and gain entry to its content, including articles, presentation, quizzes, and more. All the accessible points, links have been mentioned here. jeev.net.in, support@jeev.net.in is the email address. If you have any queries related to how to access it, feel free to reach out on the number or the email address. Jai Jinendra, Somil Bhaiya, Jai Jinendra everyone, and thank
जय
you.
जिनेन्द्र।
Jai.